This podcast is part of the Midwest Podcast Network. Find out more about our other shows and how to support our network at MidwestPodcastNetwork.com. Welcome to Gone to Texas, a podcast about AMC's Preacher. My name is Alex, and I have not read any of Ennis and Dillon's Preacher.
My name is Nick, and I have read all of Ennis and Dillon's Preacher.
Today we will be discussing Season 3, Episode 6 of the AMC series titled Les Enfants du Sang. While we will not be spoiling any of the comic and by extension any future plotlines of the show, we will be discussing the details of the series through Season 3, Episode 6, so pause this and go catch up before you listen to the rest of the episode. You can find more episodes of our podcast at g2tpodcast.com. We're also G2T Podcast on Twitter, and you can send feedback to g2tpodcast@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our podcast and share your thoughts on AMC's Preacher. If you enjoy this show or any other show on the Midwest Podcast Network, please consider heading over to patreon.com/MidwestPodnet. That's MidwestPodnet, and pledge as little as $1 a month to make our network even better. Special thanks to our friend Jason K., who's pledged at the level of $10 per month. Briefly, I would like to give people a little preview of what's going on with the Midwest Podcast Network. We've got at least 2 other active podcasts going on right now. There's one called Horror Movie Yearbook, where they talk about horror movies in depth. They go back in time to a release year, or sometimes back in time to earlier in the year when a horror movie came out. And they discuss a horror movie in depth and what was going on in their lives and in the world at the time, seeking to contextualize what's going on around that horror and why that horror movie might have come out that way at the time. So this past week, they talked about the movie Fear with our friend Marky Mark and Reese Witherspoon. Not our friend. We don't know them. But they're in the film, and it is quite an interesting talk, even as somebody who has not seen the movie. So please go give that a listen. That's Horror Movie Yearbook, available in all the places that the Gone to Texas is. And then also the Midwest Game Nerds podcast, we covered the new update to No Man's Sky. And
the next update.
Yes, 1.5 is out, and it's getting closer to the game that it was promised to be. So please go give that a listen. The Midwest Game Nerds podcast, available in all places.
It's Gone to Texas. It's closer.
It's closer.
It's not quite there.
I don't know. It depends. You got to listen to the show and find out. So
there you go.
There you go. We did get some listener feedback this week from our friend Joseph, as always. There's also a great discussion going on in the Discord, as there always is.
Always. And
all that takes is a little $5 donation to us per month. You can stop even after Gone to Texas is done, or you can keep it going if you want to support any other future projects that we have going on or the other podcasts going on in the network. But let's take a look at what Joseph wrote to us this week. He's commenting on the episode we're about to talk about. He said, another good emotional roller coaster, as the show gives us some great Jesse and Tulip action before pulling the rug out and giving Grandma the apparent win. He said, number 2, I was about 90% convinced that the Allfather and Star were eating Humperdoo until Star swore loyalty to him at the end of the meal. And then number 3, I'm sure some kind of twist is coming with Les Enfants du Sang, but I have trouble figuring it out. They seem to need Cassidy for something, but for what? So I think some good observations there from Joseph. Thank you for writing in. Thank you to Bruce as well for always bringing some good discussion to the channel after the episode airs. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Alex is not exaggerating. There is always discussion going on, even if it's not necessarily in the Preacher channel.
Yeah.
The guys who have jumped into the Discord have, made their way through a lot of the different channels going on there, and they are talking to us about television in general. We have a comics channel started now, actually directly inspired by the two of them, by Bruce and Joseph.
Absolutely.
We have other people in there as well, not just those two guys, but we've got the Film Nerds channel still going, just to talk about general movies. Yoop keeps posting really good articles in there, and I keep not reading them. And
really good videos and video essays and things that
Yoop
people
is
are
our research scholar abroad, and he keeps pulling all this really great stuff in, and I keep sort of watching some of it and then not watching more. So
there's like 13 of us.
Not unnoticed.
There are 13 of us in there. I think probably 6 or so of us who are hosts of shows, and then the rest of them are listeners.
It's really cool.
And it's a great discussion. There's lots of great discussions going on.
Yeah,
at all
Horror
times.
Movie Yearbook is very active.
Yeah. The Film Nerds discussion is active too, even though there is no Film Nerds podcast going on.
It's
right
kind of
now.
the general channel right now.
Yes. It's where our it's where the minimal thoughts we have about current movies goes.
Yes.
and would be on a podcast if there were more of those thoughts to have.
Exactly.
But anyway,
there's your incentive.
Enough
Jump
of a
in.
commercial for our Patreon. Thank you to those who donate already, and hopefully more of you will do the same.
Mm-hmm.
But on with our recap for the episode. So, Season 3, Episode 6, Les Enfants du Sang. Les Enfants du Sang.
All I can keep thinking over and over is,
Les
you're what the French
incompetents.
call, Kevin, you're what the French call les incompetents.
I think you probably referenced that on
I'm sure I did.
most of the podcasts on the Midwest Podcast Network.
Yeah. That specific line?
Yes.
Or just
that specific
Home Alone?
line, I'm pretty sure.
Probably,
I think
yeah.
it has been in all three of the television. Maybe not. I don't know.
Probably.
There's a lot of French in the stuff that we talk about.
I guess so.
So,
Pardon my French.
all right, the teaser. We finally get to see Eugene. Eugene visits Anvil briefly to see that there is now a crater where the city once was. He questions God's plan for him as the Department of Human Services picks him up, and he ends up immediately adopted by the one and only Saint of Killers. Eugene realizes he's headed back to hell, but not before the Saint makes one last stop. It took 6 episodes for us to see a scene that is in the opening credits of the season.
It's true, yeah.
And we still have not seen Hitler yet. But
I thought for sure he was going to be in this episode. Once we saw Eugene, I was like, okay.
yeah, it's like, all right. Well, and even so, I was like, okay, it'll be the end cap to like they bookended with the Saint last time we saw him, so
Right.
why not again? But apparently not. So, what did you think about Eugene's reintroduction to the show? We haven't seen him since season 2.
I really liked it for the most part. His narration was really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
I just loved the sort of dark, whimsical nature to it all.
Mhm.
He was all very just taken with it, and the way what did it feel like? Shoot, it felt. This whole episode, I could just get this up right up front. Actually, felt like it was directed by Edgar Wright in a lot of ways. It felt really influenced, and I made a note somewhere at some point, and I'm sure you'll bring up something in the recap that will remind me of what triggered this thought. But I thought if Edgar Wright could direct an entire season of this show, it would be so incredible.
That would be really cool.
But there was a lot of his sensibilities on display in this, but some of the VO, it also kind of felt a little Arrested Development-y, like it just kind of had this sort of funny recap feel to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like knee-jerk reaction to the situation. It was more like he's penning his memoir later.
Mhm.
Like it was just very funny. And I loved the hell and back line, and the way he delivers it is just...
It felt like a one-man show.
Yeah,
kind of,
like
you know?
the Moth podcast or something.
Yeah.
It was all just very carefully presented,
Mhm.
but in a way that was funny. It didn't feel gritty or it just was like a genuine guy just talking to you. It was almost like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Like just a dude on a bench just telling you what happened, and it was hilarious. I was actually just actually chuckling while most of the scene was playing out. And when he's sitting down and he picks up where his narration leaves off and is delivering it to the kid in the cot across from him as though that kid was listening the whole time. Yeah, and I really liked it all up until the Saint showed up. And I didn't mind that the Saint showed up, but the context, oh, you've been adopted, that joke was funny.
Yes. But Eugene going along with it.
Well, no, just the idea that the Saint would walk in and be like, I'm looking for Eugene Root, and then him doing whatever needed to be done to declare him as adopted. I was like, this is stupid.
Well, yeah.
Unless the joke is the system is that broken where a man can show up, a big giant man in a trench coat can say,
this is my son now.
Eugene Root, and they just take him there and say, you've been adopted, and that's all it takes.
I think, she didn't the caretaker or whoever is there is basically just you got to fill out some paperwork, and then he shoves her through the wall. So it's kind of like but the system.
The show, and this is a small complaint, but I do feel it's a little valid. The show definitely doesn't use the Saint to his fullest potential as he is depicted in the books. Because there's a little bit of because he's played for laughs sometimes. Yeah. It kind of softens him and in a way that I don't really appreciate. He can be funny, but it should be in the way that maybe the Joker in The Dark Knight is funny. He's not really funny. You're just you are entertained, but you're not. You don't think it's actually funny. He's not. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? He should be that. The way that the Joker is kind of like the shark in Jaws. He's this thing that shows up, and you're like, oh, shit's going down. Yeah. If the Saint, if he had delivered a similar line to the other orphan, and then like the Saint just came crashing through the wall, and then just like said, "Come with me," and he's like, "Okay," and they leave, and that's how he gets out. Like that to me would have
worked better.
Would have rung more true to the books. But the fact that he threw the lady through the wall right after, like, I was like, all right, like we're kind of there. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. And this is the Saint is one of the characters that I have more issue with than others because they still haven't really gotten him quite there yet. He's had many moments in the show that are like, hell yeah, that's like the Saint. But I'm still waiting for like something, and it's because his interactions with Jesse have been like near misses or that kind of thing. I think those are the confrontations I'm really waiting for.
Yeah.
But anyway, small complaint. Good scene.
No, I get it. It makes sense. Like it kind of
like the Saint shouldn't talk. He shouldn't have conversations with people like, hey, I'm looking for Eugene Root. Is he here? Am I at the right orphanage? He's down here. Oh, great. Can I see him?
Even like an implied conversation.
Exactly.
Is
it doesn't make sense.
Yes, but I don't know.
Unless we could have seen it because he doesn't. That actually I might have weirdly liked more because he doesn't have his guns.
Yes.
So him walking in and looking around and being like, almost like Edgar in Men in Black, like watching him try to interact with people and then being like, what the? Like that, I may have liked that more if he's like, Eugene.
Root.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think in the first season they really kind of played him as like he's going to say the word preacher and that's what he's going to say.
Exactly.
And they've fallen from that a bit, but I don't know. It's still there for me, and I get it. I get what he's supposed to be, but I'm not. I will say I'm not like horrified at him showing up, which is something that I wish I was. You know,
exactly. Like when that outline of him shows up in the doorway, you should be like, "Oh Jesus!"
I wish he was the most harshly backlit thing I've ever seen in my life.
He is in season 2. That's
that's true.
They get the general mood of him really good in season 2, and I guess Tulip's reaction. Now that we know what a badass Tulip is, I mean, she's even cooler in this season.
Yeah.
Looking back on season 2, like her reactions to him, like that should really spell it out for you. Like that he's not
like his imposing nature,
and maybe it's also because Jesse's so flippant about it all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas in the books, they do have this weird. I don't know. Jesse's not like too afraid of him in the books. But you can tell he at least recognizes that this guy's a walking like nuclear arsenal.
It's like a stoic like. I'm going to walk on eggshells here and be ready with my hair trigger, like, you know.
With Genesis ready.
Yes.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm nitpicking the shit out of that.
Yeah, no.
It's a really fun scene, and it's really nice to see Eugene again. Like, I gotta say, he's just so refreshing. Also, the makeup is so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the Saint is outside holding him, and you get like a real close-up on Eugene's face, and you can see that it looks like the majority of what's on his face is prosthetic.
Yeah.
And they just are enhancing the mouth a little bit because the nose and the nostrils and everything, like it was amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. It looks very convincing. I don't want to say it looks great because it looks gross, but that's good thing. That's
it is
good.
Great. Yeah.
So
yeah, if you had told me a couple years ago that the show would not only be as good as it is, but that I would like Arseface and that his makeup would be incredible, I'd be like, come on, there's no way they could do it. They could do it justice. I'm
curious as to whether or not they will intersect with Jesse. I feel like they will eventually, but I don't necessarily feel like it's going to happen this season even.
I don't think Eugene is getting back to hell. I think
okay.
I think they're on a collision course with something that will derail that plan.
Like somehow the Saint is there at Angelville with the Grail and
God, I can only hope. That would be like
it might happen.
One of my wildest dreams come true if he just ends up, even if the Saint just picks up like an M16 from somewhere. He doesn't even need his guns, although his guns are hilarious in terms of what they can do.
Yes.
He's invincible.
If he gets to Jody's arsenal, I feel like he would. He's
just carrying Jody in one arm.
Yeah.
And has a bazooka on the other.
That would be quite good.
Anyway, yeah, it's enough gushing about the potential of the Saint for now.
Yeah. Let's move on.
What if the Saint had been played by Val Kilmer and it was just a callback to the Saint? Would have sucked.
Yeah, but it would. I feel like that'd be very Rogan and Goldberg.
That's true. Yeah, if at the end of this whole series it turns out that Jesse sold the movie rights, they're optioned by a studio, and Val Kilmer was playing the Santa Killers, that'd be the kind of joke they'd make.
That would be pretty good. Another meta moment, by the way, I did end up seeing Mission Impossible last week, and just like as the movie was starting, I was like, that's right. Tom Cruise dies in the Preacher premiere episode.
Yeah, that's
Genesis,
right. Yeah.
Genesis. And it's a running joke like through the first season.
They keep showing it on TV.
Because they have like this, I think his remains get shot into space or something like that, which is very Tom Cruise. But anyway, Mission Impossible is very good. Everybody should go see it.
I really want to go see it.
But yeah. All right. Act 1, Cassidy comes to see that Les Enfants du Sang are just a group of posers who meet in one of their grandmother's basements. Eccarius tries to keep Cassidy around with a parlor trick of eating a whole owl, demonstrating that he must be a vampire of some sort too. Back at Grandma's, TC and Jody hook Tulip up to the soul extraction machine, but not before Jesse wakes up and stops them, saying he'd rather save Grandma's life with a bunch of souls than barely keep her alive with one. He wants to rob Sabina of the souls she has in stock, and the first step is to make the boys believe that Tulip and Grandma are indeed dead. I wasn't expecting Eccarius to be a real vampire. And in that sense, I'm a little bit disappointed, but I got over it very quickly.
Did the rest of the scene deliver enough for you?
Yeah. Well, a little bit. Like the whole eating of the owl thing, like this Eccarius to me feels like it could, in any other show, Eccarius is a shark jumping moment. But in Preacher, I'm like, okay, par for the course. Move on.
This is just another fact of the show.
The owl eating and the flying and everything, like all of that feels like a little bit of a bridge too far. But it's I've just been over so many of those bridges in the show that I don't really care or mind all that much. I'm like, I know this is going somewhere.
That's quite a power for a show to wield.
Yeah, yeah. Tom Cruise exploded in the premiere, so
it's true. Liquefied. Done.
So what do you think about Eccarius? I know you kind of said you think he's going to serve a different purpose in the show as opposed to the comic. Do you still feel like that's true now that you've seen more of him?
Yes. Yeah, the Children of Blood, so I can not stop not continue quoting Home Alone. I almost said Home Improvement. I'm waiting for a Home Improvement joke in this show. I feel like it would really would fit. They're very, very, very different, both in terms of how they're introduced, what relationship they have to Cassidy, what their function is, the main storylines surrounding them. Like currently, I think it's really possible that they don't ever necessarily intersect with Jesse, and or Jesse and Tulip, but they're just different. But I don't mind it. I think Eccarius is pretty funny. One of the Edgar Wright jokes definitely was when he's talking about, it was like something straight out of Hot Fuzz. He's talking initially before Cass really realizes that he's a real vampire.
Yeah.
He's talking about everything, and he says, I wrote it down. I should probably just read it. He says something about them being, he says, it's our job to preserve the ways of the night. And then the owl hoots right after that.
Yes.
And I died. I just lost it. It was so good. It's it's the most Google owl hooting sound effect. And it was just something straight out of Hot Fuzz. Whatever. It reminded me of the people continually chanting for the greater good.
Yes.
In the background. And because then the owl does it again later, and it's the exact same noise. It's like the plate breaking sound from Wet Hot American Summer. It was really, really good. I just thought, this is awesome. The group, the actual group is really funny. The fact that they're in dude's grandma's basement was really
Mrs. Rosen's basement.
Yeah. Awesome. And I loved the dude that he was like, who's ready? And then he calls forth, what's his Dang? Dang. And he's just, it was the perfect guy. He just is so enthusiastic, but really awkward and just with his fake teeth. Oh my God. I thought this whole thing is really funny. And I was completely in with Cassidy the whole time, just being like, this is a joke.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Joe Gilgan, again, just tremendous in this scene. As soon as he wakes up and he's looking around, He looked like he just woke up from a really nasty hangover. And he had like one eye open, the other kind of shut, and he's just looking at all of them, and he's like just calling them names, and it was just perfect. I
That's the thing that's very interesting about it, is that you are now taking, like, where Joel Gilgun is typically the outsider because he's different.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's the outsider because he's like, he's not. It's almost like he's not different enough in this group. Like he's not the cliched vampire that all of them are, or that they all want to.
That they're all striving to be.
Yeah.
And also I think in other groups he's trying to fit in more. He's trying to click, and with these guys he doesn't want to. He's not interested.
Yeah, that's true. He's not trying to.
It's also weird that he's the reasonable one. He's like the sane one.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. He's gone from being the
I want to snort whatever toxic substances are in this room.
But even on like a more basic level, he's gone from being like the Buster to Jason Bateman.
Okay.
In Arrested Development.
Sure.
To now being the Jason Bateman to the Buster of the Children of Blood. So it's just a very interesting flip on the dynamic.
To the rest of the Bluth family, basically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, no, it was very good. Like, regardless of how outlandish Eccarius seems, the group of people existing that want to be vampires was never anything that I, like, even thought about having a problem with. And therefore, like, all of that stuff I felt was quite good.
Yeah,
it was almost exclusively the eating of the owl and
that was
and the flying and the cat transformation that are kind of like it's like teetering on like if we keep going crazier as quickly.
Yeah, it reached like a What We Do in the Shadows level of zany.
Yeah, it's
true, and it does. It does make you no longer certain of the rules regarding vampires in the show.
Yeah.
Because Cass seemed so far like sort of a deconstruction of the myth. He's like, yes, I'm essentially immortal and can heal from pretty much anything, but I can't go in the sun and I have to drink blood. That's kind of the thing. But he doesn't have to drink blood day to day.
Mm-hmm.
It's only to heal himself. Whereas Eccarius seems to think if he drinks blood always, it makes him more of a vampire. At least that's kind of what Cass implies later.
Yeah, Cass implies that the skills that Eccarius has are from the blood drinking, which is not really... I don't know. I personally was kind of like, I don't know if he's right about that.
Yeah.
But, you know...
We also don't... I mean, there's a lot we don't know about Eccarius still, in terms of even how long he's been a vampire. Seems like centuries. Upon centuries.
Well, and then like in terms of more rules with the vampires, like he just like takes some blood from Dang, and then Dang is now a vampire. Like, is that?
Yeah.
Like I guess I don't remember exactly how it happened with Denis, but it seemed a little more protracted than like, I'm gonna suck your blood a little bit and then.
Yeah.
So
maybe Eccarius is more potent.
That's possible.
Maybe because he hasn't killed he hasn't attacked his system at 24/7 with like drugs and other noxious chemicals.
He's not a muted vampire.
He's in better shape, just in better health.
Yeah. No.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then the plan to rob Sabina of the souls that the Boyds have collected, I felt was pretty good. What did you think about the tulip wig?
Oh, it was funny.
It's just a nice little nod to actual comic tulip.
Yeah. And she walked out with it, and she asked him, do you remember this? He's like, hell yeah, I remember that. It's like part reference for readers, part like callback to them, and him thinking that wig was pretty sexy. It was Dominic Cooper was great. Those two were a couple in real life for like almost a decade. I just saw this, like, and whether the source I read was credible or not, I don't know. But it said that Dominic Cooper and Ruth Negga were a couple for like 8 or 9 years, and they just like weeks ago or recently split.
I had heard that. I don't know that I had ever internalized it.
Yeah.
They were in a relationship beginning in 2010. They lived in London, starred opposite each other in many projects, including National Theatre's production of Phaedra in 2009, a short film, the 2016 movie Warcraft.
Of course, yeah, we know that.
And AMC's Preacher. They reportedly split up in April of 2018. So.
I wish I had never found that out, because now that I know, and then they broke up, I'm so bummed, because it explains so much about their chemistry.
Yeah.
And now I'm just sad. Because
now you're going to be looking for the
I
little
want those,
cracks
I
in
want
it.
those two crazy kids to just work it out because they're so awesome.
Yeah, they are very good.
They're also both like ridiculously beautiful people. Just work it out, you two.
Yeah.
And make some gorgeous kids for Joe Gilgan to be an uncle to. Yeah, anyway, it's I found that out and I was like, oh wow, I had no idea. And I actually think that my discovery of that came on the heels of this hard and fast Mamma Mia conversation in the Discord, because I know Dominic Cooper used to date Amanda Seyfried.
Yes.
And somehow reading some article about that on Reddit or something, I saw the thing about him and Ruth Negga, and I was like, no. So they better straighten out. I guess they said that it was like really amicable, and they're still like buds.
It must be, because they look like they're best friends hanging out at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it.
It was really interesting, though, because Ruth Negga talked about how important it was to star opposite him. She's like, because you always have someone on set who's like got your back. She goes, which is, you know, you can work these like 12, 14-hour days shooting Preacher. She's like, it gets hard unless you're like with your best friend, essentially.
Yeah.
Like someone who can help support you and kind of prop you up and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting.
That is very interesting.
Some behind the scenes that I didn't know.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about the plan, I guess? You know, they were going to take Tulip's soul. Looks like she and Jesse lost the fight that ensued at the end of the last episode.
Which, of course, they did. What I really love about this, I guess, are we just going to start talking about the actual plan itself? Is that in the next act?
Yeah, I mean, it's all throughout the episode,
Okay.
but it'll just hasten the conversation later, so it's not.
I really like that it reveals that Tulip is really like, she's the number one bank robbery weapon. Like it's her. Like she's the key to it. Like Jesse's good. He's like a good like point man, but she's kind of like the brains behind
She'll put
the
on
whole
the
thing.
act, encase the joint, and
Exactly.
figure out what's got to
Surveil
happen.
it nicely. She can blend in. She can talk her way in and out of a lot of situations. Like I really loved that dynamic of the relationship. He even says like, you didn't have Tulip before.
Yeah,
like she's
the brain. She's the Zissou.
Exactly. Yeah, she's the Zissou. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that. I love that about her, and the way she carries it is just fantastic, just phenomenal. The way she even walks in the door of the bank is there seems so in her glasses, the whole wardrobe. It's like I love the idea that it's all her. Her being like, I'll wear this, I'll wear these glasses, I'll talk this way because that's what's going to work. And I thought that was just perfection.
It's not going to be Jesse walking in there with his mullet that he had in the flashbacks with
which would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be great. But
I like that she doesn't play it like super sexy or anything. Like she's cute, she's alluring, she's cute and like really likable, but she's not in a way that it's not like some distracting.
It's
not
not
like
her having to like drop the cleavage to like
exactly, or like bend over and pick stuff up all the time.
Yeah,
she's just like likable.
Yep.
And I think that goes further because also like she's memorable, but she's not the woman in the red dress from The Matrix. Like the bank manager will be like, oh wow, what a nice, pleasant like young woman, and he'll want to help, but he won't be like later tell all his buddies like, you should have seen this chick that came into the bank today.
Yeah, she's just like inconspicuous enough that he'll forget about her, despite the fact that it's the same day that he got robbed.
Yeah, it was great.
So yeah, no, it was very good.
I like this. The dude just licks it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Very.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, it's this new Asian technology."
Yeah.
It's like, of course.
Cool, huh? Yeah, it was really good. She's like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll circle back around to that detail.
Yep. Yes, we will. All right. In Act 2, Tulip easily cases the bank where the Boyds keep their souls locked up, but they need to procure Sabina's saliva to get into her safe deposit box. The crew find that the police response time is only 7 minutes, so TC offers to buy them more time, and all they have to do is get Sabina's spit. Eccarius picks a loyal subject, Dang, who turns into to turn into a vampire that night in a blood ceremony. He invites Cassidy, but Cassidy isn't too interested. Cassidy explains that he's too different from Eccarius to hang out with the children of blood, but Eccarius suggests that Cassidy has been living his life as a vampire all wrong. And then also Herr Starr rides the elevator with Hoover, explaining that they need to find Cassidy in order to get Jesse back in the fold, but they have to do it quietly since the Allfather is now scrutinizing his actions. When the elevator opens, we see that Featherstone has been trying to hold the operation down, and interacting with Hoover and Featherstone leaves Starr exasperated. He sneaks off to his office to find the Allfather there waiting for him after he reveals the state of his head injury. Yeah, casing the joint. We talked about that a little bit. TC offering to buy them time. We can touch on in a later act. But that all seems good. We talked a little bit about Eccarius selecting Dang, but Cassidy. It's interesting to me to see these two different vampires that have, like, how their lives have progressed over time. Just the fact that Cassidy is seemingly dealing with the fact that he's a vampire, whereas Eccarius is seemingly enjoying it.
Yeah.
And he's taken the time to learn 19 languages, or maybe that was part of his upbringing too. Who knows? Because he is royalty. But
so he claims.
The fact that he seems to still find joy in things like playing Bach on his harp, and he seems like a man who is still very much engaged in life.
Yeah.
Where Cassidy, on the other hand, seems like someone who is like merely coping with the fact that he is having to deal with living forever, you know?
Yeah, I think at this point I'm not too off the mark in saying that it's going to pretty soon become crucial that we get Cassidy flashback.
Okay.
Because we're just circling, we're
beating around that bush.
Exactly. Yeah, we're drawing this out. I get why.
Yeah.
But at this point, because these are two different personalities, and to jump ahead just a touch,
yeah,
Eccarius says that he turns good people, like, because he mentions, like, what was your son like, and he's like, oh, he's kind of a dick actually, and he's like, yeah, he takes the time to, like, vet and find good people that will do good things with the gifts, which sort of puts forth the idea that Cassidy was not a good person to begin with. That maybe because Cassidy does bad things. We've seen him do some bad things, and he has done more bad things that we have yet to be made aware of, I'm sure, because you see, what his default mode is crack house.
Yeah.
And steal, and those kind of things. And Eccarius's default is play the harp and fly. He's Superman, basically. And the implication then is he is, because he is of a royal lineage, so he says, and he's got this cultured upbringing, he was born and bred to be a good person and do good things with the power he's given. It is also interesting, though, they've both ended up like in this like low rung of society where like Cass is essentially just a junkie, an immortal junkie, and Eccarius is just lives in a dude's basement, a dude's grandma's basement.
Yeah. And
you're like, okay, so even with all that power, this is still kind of where you land. But he seems fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm a little wary of Eccarius's actual
intentions.
Well, intentions, as well as like, is his history really, can he actually speak? You know what I mean? Is he all these things he says he is? Or did he get turned into a vampire 50 years ago? His name is Jerry, and he was an apartment, or he was a...
I was just thinking that too. I was like, what if he's been a vampire for like 10 years? And
exactly.
That's why he...
And he puts on...
Or he's acting like the girl who said she was a vampire for 200 years. Maybe he's just carrying on his role play. Much like...
I mean, he was flying around and shit.
No. But I'm saying he maybe once was a human.
Sure. He's
more
created
recently,
this whole backstory.
Yes,
yeah.
He has.
No,
created...
he's probably from like Jersey or something. And I mean, that'll be really funny if he pulls off the wig and he just is like just an American dude who's like, whoa, hey man, calm down. But he is definitely a bit of a badass vampire, as we see later when Cassidy tries to kill him.
Yeah.
But all that's a little unclear. But I like the argument that he's putting forth, that if, it's like a nature-nurture kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, if turned into a vampire, given a long enough timeline, will everyone default to doing worse things because you've slightly lost your mind, slightly, is Cass's argument when he basically says you start drinking motor oil just to feel something new, and and he says something else along those lines too. Basically, just you live long enough, and life is no longer enough, and you start to just be worse, and you start to do worse things just to try to feel alive again. will everyone eventually reach that point? I think it's kind of an interesting thing.
Do the continued tragedies of living
exactly yeah
of
that was the other
existence
thing,
like compile upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a very good Jonathan Colton song that he wrote.
You could stop there and I would say yes.
Well, yeah. In the style of Ben Folds or Ben Folds 5 called Blue Sunny Day, which is about a depressed vampire who wants to kill himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
It's a fantastic song. It is really good. It's very catchy.
He's another one of those guys like our music discussion last week who writes stories.
Yeah. No,
And-
absolutely. Yes, for sure.
And they're really fun to listen to.
Yes. So check that out. Blue Sunny Day. Very good. But yeah, no, I'm interested to see how this plays out. And it does feel like we are being presented with an opportunity for Cassidy to start sharing more about his backstory for sure. I think that's true.
I think we need it soon.
Whether it's him and Eccarius like trading stories or, just kind of sharing with someone else in the group, like whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. I had hoped that when it does get to that point, because when you hear about his flashbacks in the books, he's telling it to Jesse, and they're at the top of the Empire State Building, and it's great, and it's some of my favorite stuff, and the top of the Empire State Building actually becomes kind of important, not like in any like major like somebody jumps off of it or anything, but like becomes this place of like these connections. I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Huh.
I don't know if we'll ever get to that. Probably not. This show seems to only shoot in the South.
Yeah.
But if they flew just a few of them and a small skeleton crew out to the Empire State Building to shoot that, it would be really kick-ass.
That would be very cool. Or maybe we'll hear season 4 is filming in New York, but who knows?
God. I hope. All I want to hear is season 4 is happening.
yeah,
right
that's the minimum bar right now. All right. Hairstar.
Yep.
His ride in the elevator with Hoover is just so good.
It's fantastic. What's the name of the guy who plays Hoover? I don't even know it.
I'll look it up real quick.
I know it in the back of my mind, but I can't recall it right now. Man, he is just stepping even every day. He puts on that role like it's a comfortable pair of slippers.
Malcolm Barrett.
I was gonna say Malcolm. I thought it was Malcolm Young, but he's from AC/DC. Not correct. Hoover is just fantastic. I mean, as much as I love Featherstone, Hoover, I kind of look forward to him more, especially when it's him and Star together.
Yeah.
It's in the end of the scene, just forgot to press the button. Oh man, it's so good.
His I don't know. He's caught between these forces above him and the Grail that are clearly moving towards two different opportunities, but his complete aloofness. How did he even get to be in the Grail?
Oh yeah, exactly.
How did he make it through those tests that Hairstar made it through? It's
one of the best jokes in the book, or kind of along those lines too. Hoover's a little different in the book, but the ineffective nature of Samson Unit is one of the funniest things in the books. Yeah. And Featherstone is not particularly. She's not as accomplished as she is in the show. She's not on the level of Hoover. She's not like a total dunderhead like him. And her desire to impress Hairstar and get his attention,
her ambition
is the same.
Yeah.
But she's definitely a more effective field agent in the show, even though the rest of the organization can't support her abilities.
Yeah.
And desire.
Yeah.
But yeah, the elevator ride was really good. It's one of those little scenes that it could be shorter. It doesn't necessarily need to be there, but it just is what makes this show as great as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the little bit of exchange with Featherstone, the fact that Star has messages waiting for him from Robert Mueller and Xi Jinping and Meghan Markle. Yeah. That's gonna date that scene a little bit, but I think it fits in at a good time.
Yeah, that's okay. And those are names that they're not gonna. It's not like making a reference to like a lava lamp or something like that. It's gonna be remembered.
But yeah. So, what did you think about the reveal?
I was so disappointed by it. I was so incredibly let down by it. What did you think?
It didn't really connect with me until the Allfather actually said it.
That's the mistake, man.
Yeah.
God.
But I don't know what they could have really done to like.
They could have done exactly what the book does because it's one of the best jokes in the book. It's. I don't want to say the way he gets his wound is different in the book.
Okay.
But it achieves the same result, and in the way, like, I think that the issue where it happens, then you move on. He like gets away or whatever. You don't see the scar, and then I think it's the beginning of the next issue or like 2 issues later. The whole page is broken into like 9 panels, and the first 8 are the exact same. They're him staring into the mirror, just staring at the scar. And you're looking at it too, and you're like, I don't get it at first. And then, but the 9th panel is like, it's the same thing, but it's just that there's a dialogue box, and he just says, shit. And I think that's it. And then it clicks, and you're like, oh my God, his head looks like a penis now. And the way it's done is so funny, and it's so simple, and it lets you arrive at the joke on your own. And it's just so good. And in the show, to have the reveal not be framed in a way where you understand the injury at first, and then to have a character just be like, your head looks like a penis. I was like, oh, way to take a really like lowbrow joke that is really elegantly told in the book and just like make it suck. I was really bummed out, especially after I hyped it up so much as being like, I hope it gets there to the way it does in the book, and it doesn't, and that's too bad. At the end of the day, it's there, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get lots of giggles out of it in the rest of the series, but the reveal is so awesome in the book, and I'm just really disappointed that one fell super flat.
That's a bummer. But
yeah, like if I pulled up the panel and showed you would just start laughing because it's just it's so well done. Especially when when we see Star make the discovery himself is also what makes it so funny. Like in the show,
he has
clearly already found out, and that's why he's wearing all these goofy hats, like his cabaret hat. And I like these jokes too. Like they're really funny, and no other characters yet seem to necessarily know why he's wearing these hats. Mm-hmm. Or if they do, Featherstone's doing a great job of like being like, oh, he looks great, and not thinking about the dick scar under his head, under the hat. But I just was I think I like just went, oh, and just like sighed when I was watching it because I was like, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Book readers back me up here. Maybe they don't care. Maybe I'm the only one hung up on the reveal of the dick scar on the
head. on the nature of the John Wayne stuff last episode, which I'll touch on in a second here with Joseph, I forgot that he'd gone into the Discord to let us know whether or not it worked for him. But I would like to know if anybody else was like, we have seen that I can be somewhat unobservant in some cases. There are some things that I just don't tend to be clued into, and I don't know if it's because I'm still on like the Westworld wavelength or what it is, but I would like to know if that hit anybody differently, or if it took until the Allfather to like actually realize, oh, that's what the joke is here.
Yeah, because even the musical cue when he pulls the hat off makes it seem like it's like this horrific injury from like, you know, like a burn victim or something. Really, like you're supposed to be like, oh, and like recoil and like horror. But it's not supposed to be gross. It's supposed to be funny,
goofy. Yeah.
And there was a moment later in the episode when he's sitting there talking to the Allfather, and I was just looking at him, and I kind of like I was looking at his eyes, and I kind of looked up like that, and I kind of was like, yeah, it's working. Like it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'll be interested to see if they get how much mileage they really get out of it.
I was also
in the show.
Man, I want to give a minor book spoiler about how he gets it in the book. It's intentional in the book. Let's just say that. In the show, it's an accident. And in the book,
I think I might know a little bit from what, from like a you and Lance conversation
you could probably
previously.
Just guess which character would do that to him. But it is intentional in the book. Someone gives him that knowing what it's going to look like, essentially. And when it happens, like as it's happening, you're like, what the fuck? And then when you see the joke and you realize later that the character knew what they were doing, you're like, oh, that's really good. And in the show, because it was just the result of like a mistimed shot, you're like, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But maybe they couldn't get that one past AMC. Maybe they're like, yeah, this character carves a dick in his head. And like, well, no, it needs to be an accident. And then it just is misfortune.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
So Joseph did let us know as we put the call out there. He is unspoiled. He has not read the book, and if the show ends, he's planning to mainline it. But
do it anyway. When the show? Do you say if or when the show ends?
He said if the show ends.
Okay. Whenever it ends, do it anyway. Like just because. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. But he did say, this is in reference to the John Wayne stuff, that we wondered whether or not people quite understood. He said, I think I got the sequence, although I had heard you talk about it, but I don't see Wayne as show Jesse's spirit animal. Wayne was too straightforward, even in his more conflicted stuff like The Searchers or The Shootist, and Jesse has been a big ball of barely contained rage. It's funny that you mentioned High Plains Drifter later, because that's the movie that occurred to me when thinking about show Jesse, which I think is a very interesting point, and I pretty much agree with what he says there.
Yeah, And I kind of replied a little bit to that, but he basically echoes exactly what I was thinking, that John Wayne, in both, I think, in his on-screen persona as well as his off-screen life, was a pretty, like, he kind of spoke his mind, and he was a pretty straightforward dude, whether right or wrong. And spirit animal John Wayne, as I'll call him, in terms of the comic, he says a lot of stuff that's like pretty, like you read and you're like, oh no, like I don't agree with that. Like, he's not always right.
Yeah.
He's not like a fairy godmother. Like, he says some pretty nasty stuff to Jesse, but it feels in character with Garth Ennis's idea of what John Wayne would be like sitting on your shoulder.
How what
like a little
what
racist,
older senile John Wayne came from.
Like, he says some racist stuff and some pretty insensitive stuff, and sometimes it like motivates Jesse because he's like mean to him. I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't want to dive too much into, but if people read the book, I think it's one of the most fascinating things about it.
Yeah.
I always love when he shows up.
Very interesting.
He's not like throughout the entire book. It's not like every issue there's a conversation with John Wayne.
Yeah, but he shows
comes
up.
and goes.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Act 3. Jesse meets Sabina at the bar, and while he fails at making Sabina spit in his face, he succeeds in stealing a kiss from her to get her saliva. Jody drops TC off at a petting zoo, and he steals a goat as a distraction for the police. His status in the community tears them away from Jesse and Tulip as they rob the bank successfully. Meanwhile, Jody heads to the Boyds and seemingly kills them all. I like that it seemed to be like the same bar that Jesse was at when he met Hair Star. That's just the haunt.
The local watering hole.
That's kind of around those parts. Although, I don't know. I guess, once again, I don't know where Angelville is compared to New Orleans. But no, what did you think about this stuff? We get some kind, like the final, you get the impression that this is the first time they've spoken since he's killed Kenny, yeah, her brother.
I really like how well the plan comes together. I kind of appreciate that. A lot of times feels like in most things I've been watching recently, there's always like the setup of a good plan and then something goes awry. And I liked watching how Jesse was able to predict her and her crew's moves so well. I just like when the characters are smart.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot on the Film Nerds.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
We appreciate smart
people doing smart things.
Exactly the phrase. Yeah.
It's too much of crazy random happenstance messing things up or like just smart people doing things that they wouldn't normally do. That kind of like really pulls you out of whatever's going on. I always think of Prometheus as the first movie that I think
the biggest offender.
Yeah, but
which is weird too because when we rewatched it, I think we both liked it so much more.
We liked it more, but that was still a problem for me.
Absolutely, yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. And it's funny because the first example I always think of getting this right is World War Z. That's always the first one I think of because I'm like, that movie gets like a weird amount of crap, and I don't understand why. I think it's a really like well done movie.
I haven't revisited it since we saw it.
I've watched it a few times since theaters, and I still think it holds up. And I just appreciate that Brad Pitt's character does like practical things, like intelligent things that are just simple. And I'm like, oh, that's smart. Anyway, different podcast.
Yeah, but no, it was nice to watch the plan go off without a hitch, and
I like. We got to see TC go full TC for the most part.
I like the fact that the pixelation did not cover nearly enough.
It wasn't pixelated enough.
No,
it was like 8 pixels.
Yes,
it should have been like 10,000.
Yes, It should have been high resolution pixelation. But
I love when Jody drops him off and he's like, "Are you good by yourself?" The way TC's sitting in that car with his lower jaw just stuck out. I mean, he's always kind of like that, but it was like extra far in this scene, and it was just cracking me up. I was like, man, he is so funny. He's like, no, I think I do better with privacy. I was like, ew. Yeah, he's not just stealing that goat.
No.
He had his way with at least that goat.
He had his intentions.
Yeah.
But.
And it gives when the cops, there's a petting zoo. We're going to a bank robbery. It's TC. And that's enough to make them turn around.
Yep, they're like, oh, God.
He's raping every animal in that petting zoo right now. As many as he can get before we get there. Yeah, it's it was funny. TC in the show, he's somehow weirdly like entertaining. You want to see him around. In the book, you're like, get this guy out of here. And Jody, so Jody says he's doing something for Ms. Maury.
Yes.
And it turns out it's just killing all the Boyds, as many Boyds as he can find.
Well,
or as many of her crew.
Killing all the Boyds, and then we eventually see that it is him taking Sabina.
Yeah.
Because Grandma wants to eat her soul, but that,
It's interesting. It's a very like Walter White move for Grandma, like just stealing the souls and giving a really extreme blow to her organization isn't enough. Like she's like, no, I'm going to take this opportunity right now while I've got all these resources. I'm going to burn this shit to the ground.
Yeah, we're gonna cut it off at its head. We're gonna prevent any retaliation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's Walter White. It's actually the only thing I can really think to compare it to. It's Heisenberg.
Walter White or Gustavo Fring.
It's true.
But yeah, no, it was.
I didn't expect that, and it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like Jesse kind of knew that might happen because when he sees her whispering to Jody and we see him kind of looking at them, I think he's kind of taking in the fact that she's planning something with just Jody. I think he kind of has to figure that Sabina might wind up in herself might wind up in the crossfire, and what happens to her ultimately is pretty tragic. It's weird that I feel bad for her. You know what I mean?
It is and it isn't, because it's kind of like we said. It seems as though she's doing. We didn't really see her organization.
We didn't see her at her worst.
No, we don't know that they don't have the tombs. Like,
right.
do they have something? Have they been as nefarious?
Or are they more like Gus, where they're cleaner? They're like, okay, you pay your debt, and if you don't, we'll just kill you.
Yeah,
and
you're dead and you're gone. Yeah,
yeah.
And we
Rather
have your
than
soul for whatever we need it for.
Keep you alive and torture you for decades.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Like, it almost to me lends credence to, like, if Jesse was kind of aware or suspected that she might be in the crossfire, like, it almost lends credence to me to the idea that he wasn't so much, when he was younger, leaving her to protect her, but leaving her to stop her from becoming
that's a good point.
Grandma or being as bad as Angelville, the Angelville operation, at least.
I mean, she still pitted Tulip against his grandma, and that in his mind, that probably justifies it.
That's true.
He's like, I don't want you to wind up in this, but if you do, I'm not. It's like the Batman. I'm not going to kill you. But.
Well, and ultimately, he does her the sympathy of killing her,
rather than
kill her. Rather than letting her fester in the tombs for long. So I don't know. It's very complicated, as any actual relationship in life would be, but because sometimes your grandma steals some souls, and you got to deal with it. But this act was really good, and just kind of how brief it was and quick, and it got us to the point. I think it was all good. So, I guess any other things about, like, I did really. It was funny to me that when Jesse sits back down in the car and he pulls out his tongue scraper or whatever, and Tulip comments about that and the fact that she was supposed to spit on your face, not but Jesse had planned for that anyway.
Yeah, he had it in his back pocket.
Yeah, it's like he knew that there might be a step two, unfortunately, or
either
fortunately
that or
enough.
it was the
it was the actual plan.
It was a skill check for him. He's like, let me see if I still got it. If I can, it'd be so much cooler if I could seduce her rather than get her to be angry. Yeah, because the way he kind of says it is a little like, well, and he's talking to her. He's like, yeah, well, how about that? And he's kind of got this little like twinkle in his eye, like.
He probably figures like I could get her to spit in my face by being more of a dick, but my plan A should be to get it more amicably because I could always piss her off. Yeah. That kind of thing, something like that. But no, it was funny. So, all right, Act 4, Star and the Allfather sit down to a meal before discussing the business that brought the Allfather into town. Cassidy sees Eccarius use a whole lot of new vampire tricks and wonders how he's gotten them, but to Cassidy it appears that the blood that Eccarius takes from his tributes as he turns them into vampires is what's giving Eccarius his powers. Cassidy thinks there's a fundamental divide between him and Eccarius, and while Eccarius was supposedly just looking for a friend, Cassidy isn't interested. And then Jesse and the crew feed the souls that they stole to Grandma to bring her back to health.
Did we skip over Eccarius and Cassidy out at the bar?
No, that happens here. Okay. It's not. I kind of skipped over it in my summary, but this is the act that it happens in.
Okay.
So the new vampire tricks, the flying, the turning into a cat, the glamoring of the couple.
Yeah, I think those are. What's interesting is I think those are old vampires. Those are like the traditional like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I guess my phrasing
those are the cliches, as Cassidy so perfectly points out.
My phrasing of new is in the sense of like new to this to our understanding of the vampires in this universe, I guess. But
they're really silly, all of them. Like when I remember thinking like, is he going to turn into a bat at some point? And he turns into a kitten. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's very much like a, not necessarily Nosferatu, but
it's Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula.
Straight Dracula game.
Yes.
And, it was. He needs to turn into fog at some point because I think vampires can do that too.
Yes, that would be quite good.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that. I mean, it is goofy. Like I said, it reminds me of What We Do in the Shadows because they have a lot of they turn into bats in that, right? And they fly around and shit. And in like a modern setting, it's really silly.
And in like in that sense, it being in like a documentary style, the idea of like, oh, this is happening out there.
Yeah,
and this is how
it's true.
We as the film crew are capturing these tricks.
Yeah, for a show that does so much with what I have to imagine is a relatively lean budget, the flying stuff looked awful. I was like, this is either by design that they like want to make this look like a B movie. I don't know, or they just were like, yeah, whatever.
I was going to ask you about that because something that I've noticed, like one of the main tells of green screen, I think, that are out there is the fact that there is a green glow on the actors, but faces. Not on anything else around them.
Yeah,
and is that not fixable in post with like color correction?
Well,
is that really like a we didn't light well enough kind of thing?
I felt like they were trying to emulate the look of like street lamps.
Okay.
Because I noticed the green on them too, and I remember thinking like, there's no way that this is green screen spill, because if it was, they wouldn't be able to key it out cleanly enough because the faces would start going away and stuff because there was a lot of green on there. And then when it cut to the wider shot and how low they were flying, I was like, this must be like their idea of like what fluorescent and like street lamps, ambient light looks like on them. But yeah, I remember thinking the same thing for a second, but I was like, if the floor was painted green, I mean, if they're in a studio where the floor is green, it could be reflecting up, but I was like, it'd be really insanely sloppy for a show that has displayed incredible cinematography that it wouldn't make any sense. So I would imagine that was kind of the effect they were going for.
Yeah, it does certainly play to the silliness of everything that's going on.
Yeah, they might as well have just had him like laying like clearly on his belly, just like going like this with his arms, like wee.
Yeah, they might as well have played A Whole New World.
Oh my God. I know he's like carrying him. Yeah, it was funny.
No, it was.
I like also they
good.
just pop into a bar for a drink, like that's what they do to hang out. They should have made jokes about him drink what Eccarius was drinking.
Well, they did.
Did they? And I just missed it.
Because the as soon as we cut to the inside, the bartender asks, he's like, "Would you like another ginger ale?" And Eccarius is like, "No." And then Cassidy's like,
right,
"Yeah, you wouldn't want to go to
yourself."
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I didn't catch what the drink was. I heard Cass's reaction.
Yeah.
And I assumed he was just teasing him for like only having one beer or something.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Oh man, I feel like a dummy for not remembering his name from the IT crowd. The goth dude who lives in like the server room.
Oh, it'll be on the tip of my tongue if I think about it, but I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, I feel he's like the best character in the show, and it's stupid that I can't remember it. He's got my favorite joke in the
Richmond.
Richmond. He's got my favorite joke in the entire series. I'm actually gonna make another IT crowd reference later at the end of this episode. I had it in my notes. Yeah, Richmond is more jokes like that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
Richmond is just the best.
Yeah, he's not so much the gothic vampire. He's more of.
He's like the High Council from Twilight. Episode. They're really like foppish vampires with their little neck frills, and yeah, he is like that.
Wonderful.
If anyone listening is wondering how we know so much about one of the installments of Twilight,
yeah,
we've watched the first 3 Twilight films with the riff tracks commentary, and the first and third are wonderful experiences, and the second should be burned and never seen, because even the comedic stylings of the riff track guys can't save it.
Yeah,
it's unbelievably bad. But the first is a lot of fun, and the third is just zany.
Thank you for clarifying, because I didn't even think about letting.
I mean, if I had seen it, I would own up to it and be like, it's not Twilight. Whatever.
Yeah, no, but
honestly, they're really fun with the riff tracks. The first and the third one, I had a great time while we were watching those.
I think
there's a group of like 4. Was it 4 or 5 of us? Anyway, there was a small group of guys. We were hanging out and watching Twilight, and it was great.
Yeah,
there's your TLDR.
It was good.
I remember you were during that second one though. I was like, "This sucks," but I'm still laughing at a few jokes. But you in particular were just like,
because I don't think I caught the first one with you guys.
Oh, you didn't see the first?
I came in at 2.
The first was probably the best,
and 2 was so bad.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was.
See,
rough.
you weren't. On the one level, you didn't have all the humor from the first movie to carry you through, but you also didn't know the story that's actually there on screen.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you weren't invested.
I'm sure that was the issue.
The first one was so good. I don't know how much riff tracks are to buy or download or rent or whatever, but it's absolutely worth renting or somehow acquiring the first Twilight and getting riff tracks along with it.
Yeah,
I think you have to download the commentary separately.
I think so.
Which kind of sucks unless you can buy. I don't know.
I'm not sure how it goes.
Yeah, I forgot. It's been years.
Yeah.
Anyway, riff tracks are great.
Yeah. Anything else about this is also where they fight. This is where the fight between Eccarius and Cassidy happens, and I thought that was very good. The slow-mo of it, I think. I don't think that didn't look silly to me. I just thought it was
cool,
well done, and it worked. It served its purpose.
He had the joke that every single fast-moving character in every movie ever has, where they look at the arm and then look back, and it's like, I was like, oh, there it is. Check that one off.
Yep.
Turn the page. What else we got to hit?
Yeah,
it was good though. I like that he continually displays that he is just a more advanced vampire than Cassidy, and is as fast and powerful as you would assume Cassidy is. That this guy is on another level. Have we seen Cass really display any crazy feats of strength? He's done feats of like survivability, where he's like jumped out of a plane and shit, and he's healed. He's come back from it.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've seen him as like
as like superhuman strong.
The closest we get to that, I think, is his introduction with him falling out of the plane. But before he falls out of the plane, he like dismantles this entire group of people trying to kill him.
Yeah, and part of that, I mean, yeah, that's true. Part of that comes from his nature, but also the fact that he's probably been in a lot of fights over the years. You got to be.
He's also probably like high on some concoction
that's true,
as well, so he's got some type of weird PCP strength.
Exactly. Plus vampire strength.
Yes. So
yeah, it's in the books. There's moments where you do get a display of like, okay, he has superhuman strength basically too, where he could do some damage.
He's mostly and we also see him in the tombs like fighting, but it's not
like when he says to Eccarius, "I'm going to rip your head off." Like that's a real threat. He could just pull your head off if he really wanted to.
I didn't get that impression so far in the show.
Gotcha.
We'll see. The other thing that I noted was that after Dang is turned, he drops his fangs into like an aquarium
full of them,
filled with them, which made me kind of worried.
Yes. Yeah. There's
Like how many are out there? Are they actually as good as Eccarius thinks they are?
That's a good question to be asking.
So
yeah, there might be a lot of unchecked vampires running around out there.
Yeah,
in New Orleans.
I skipped over that line.
Hoover's joke.
Hoover's joke of
the Irish demon.
How hard can it be to find an Irish demon carted off by a hooting pack of cape-wearing nobodies? And then Hoover's shit-eating grin while he says, "Well, it is New Orleans." It's like
herder.
It's like, yeah.
It's such a perfect Star piece of dialogue too.
Yes,
it's the kind of line that only he can deliver so expertly.
Yes,
a hooting pack.
All right, and then the final act. There's a lot that goes on here, so I'll probably stop like halfway through or so.
Wait, I guess the Allfather's dinner with Herr Star.
It basically starts here.
Okay,
and we get the story about how Crusaders were known. Like the sign of the Crusader of Jerusalem was their spurs,
yeah,
and they would have to eat their horses in order to honor them properly, essentially.
And they'd have to put them down if they goofed.
Yes, yeah.
Because they held their life in their hands, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved that part where, do you know what the symbol was? And he just goes, sword. Just says, not a sword. Just it says the word sword.
No, it's, well, and I guess the underlying, like, do you, I skipped over the fact that, Star shares with Hoover that the Allfather crushed a man's head by sitting on it because he touched his hot pocket.
Yeah.
And
he says, like, don't be fooled, because Hoover says he just, like, seems fat. And
yes.
He's like, don't be fooled. He's a ruthless killer. He makes me seem like a, what do you say?
Conscientious objector.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I guess the thing that I'm wondering here is, like, the story and the show of the horse being dragged in on the cart next to them seems to be a very overt threat.
Yes, I would agree.
From the Allfather to Star as like, I know you're holding out on me, and you are my steed upon which I ride, and I may have to put you down if you've done me wrong.
Yeah, you're my method of conveyance to the end game here. But if you, exactly.
You are. I will eat you.
If you misstep. Yeah, actually, that's true. The threat is very literal.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much confirmed by the last line of the episode.
Yeah.
That he knows there's more going on here.
Yeah. They will. They have to talk about Jesse. So.
Yeah.
All right. The only other thing was, this is also where they start feeding the souls back to Grandma, and I think Jesse continues to be suspicious of what Grandma will do once back to some of her strength, if not full strength.
We also, with the Allfather, he kind of reveals that his plan is to unleash nuclear Armageddon.
That's the final act. But
okay.
Yes.
My mistake.
No, well, we can talk about it now. But the fact that, like, Star is alarmed by the fact that nuclear apocalypse is what will bring out, that is the precursor to Humperdoo's coming.
Unveiling.
Yes, his second coming, the second coming of the Christ child. But that was very interesting to me, because Star says that, I thought it was just going to be a run on the banks or something like that. I don't know if that is him playing coy to the Allfather, or if that is him genuinely unaware of the fact that, like, that is what the Grail will assert will have to happen, or wants to assert that dominance to clear the people.
Star definitely reacts to it as though he thinks the Allfather has lost his mind, which is sort of reinforced by him loving the tap dancing of Humperdoo.
Yeah.
But I still kind of think that he kind of enjoys where Humperdoo is at, because he can maintain control of Humperdoo.
Yeah.
Like if Star or Jesse or anybody else was being put forth as the second coming of Christ, he would not be able. They would have their own agendas.
Yes.
But it is weird that the Allfather thinks, like, the general populace would be like, "Oh, this is totally the guy," but they also have an incredible level of influence, where, like, basically, like, local politicians and I don't mean local as in, like, at the state level, but like of nations, the leaders of all the nations are pretty much in their pocket, and they can say, like, you have to tell your people that this is what's up, otherwise, like...
Well, and it also makes some sense on the level of, like, I think the populace that is around after a nuclear holocaust would be more likely to believe in Humperdoo than the one that is currently existing in the world, Like, I think that is why the Allfather thinks, no more training is necessary. We can move it up. Not only because he wants to manipulate Humperdoo, but also because Humperdoo, like, they could put up Joe Schmo as the Christ child, and, after the horrors that have occurred when all of the nukes have exploded, people will be like, oh my God, a ray of hope.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that from that sense makes sense too. But it still surprised me that Star was surprised by that plan.
Yeah, I think in Star's mind, I mean, Star even says to Hoover in the elevator, I want power. And I think in Star's mind, that's how you achieve power and control in the modern era, is you control money.
Yeah.
If you essentially did Sean Bean's plan from GoldenEye, wonderful film.
Starring Pierce Brosnan.
It's true.
Subject of the last episode of Gone to Texas.
Mm-hmm. And hot topic on Discord.
Yes.
As always. His plan to basically disrupt all the banks of the world, and although he does it just as like an anarchy way, I don't think he's necessarily talking about stealing the money. He probably is. It's been a while since I've seen GoldenEye, and that part is kind of a footnote ultimately. But his plan is to just like basically make all the banks lose all their records so that there's financial chaos.
Yeah.
And I think in Star's mind, it's like, hey, we take all the money and then we call all the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And the Allfather's plan may actually be rooted in some sort of belief system. Like, he may think that genuine apocalypse is nuclear apocalypse.
That is the judgment. Like, the people will die who are going to die, and the ones that are left are the ones that...
Which is insane, because I'm not sure that's how it works, like, necessarily. I mean, I've never been through a nuclear explosion, but it seems like if you survive, you're part of a small percentile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially when he, in the way the Allfather phrases it, like, we will tell all the leaders of the nations around the world to all let loose. So if all of these countries are setting nukes off, like, it's not good. And I think that's kind of also why, like, Star's also wondering, like, what is left to control. And that shows that his motive is just, like, to have control to tell the world what to do. And the Allfather may genuinely want to fulfill the mission of
his higher-ups.
Yes,
in heaven.
Which is essentially heaven. But we also know he's talking to the devil.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
His motivation is still a little iffy.
Maybe that's the expansion plan too. Like, that is hell on earth at that point too. Interesting. Don't
want to forget about that. I'll keep that back in my mind.
I'll write it on the board that is currently nowhere near us.
Okay.
That we will. I'll hopefully remember to consult before we record our season wrap up. But all right, let's get to actual Act 5. Cassidy sits alone in an abandoned house, getting high when he gets a call from Tulip. Tulip updates Cassidy on the latest news from Angelville, but Cassidy seems completely uninterested. He informs Tulip that he doesn't intend to hang around waiting for her and Jesse, as he's gone through thousands of them before. And Tulip is teary-eyed when she gets off the phone, but she gets knocked out with chloroform. In the next room, Grandma thanks Jesse for helping her get back on her feet, but she's angry at Tulip, and she really wants Jesse's debt paid. She knocks Jesse out, and we're led to believe that they're taking Tulip's soul, but they really force her to watch as they take Sabina's. Jesse sees Sabina without her soul and kills her on the spot, saying he'll pay his debt, but he'll be calling the Grail. The Allfather and Star finish their meal. Star is shocked to learn the apocalypse will be a nuclear holocaust before Humperdoo takes the world. And after the Allfather purges, he's ready for business, and it's time to talk about Jesse Custer. Finally, Cassidy returns to Mrs. Rosen's house after smoking crack all day to join the Children of Blood.
Les incompetents.
Yes. The phone call between Cassidy and Tulip was very, very good.
It was. Sad. For both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what affected me the most was Cassidy's cut loose. He's like, all right, you guys pushed me away and I'm done now. Like, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Which is not what I was expecting from him. The idea that Tulip would be sad that Cassidy is not, like, I guess I saw Cassidy's departure, or Cassidy's getting on the bus, more from her perspective of like, you're in danger, we're going to come and get you later.
Mm-hmm.
I believed that. And I think that's what they intended. But clearly Cassidy's kind of like, nope.
Yeah, I think it's easy to mistake intentions in this world.
Yeah.
It's I think in Cass's mind, he's an inconvenience. And while they work out whatever problems they have going on without him, once it's convenient for them, they will come pick him up and he can join along. It's easy to feel, I think, pushed, relegated to the sideline in his mind.
Yeah.
And in Tulip's mind, it was to protect him. And in Jesse's mind, it probably was actually to get him the hell away from Tulip because he was being annoying.
Yeah.
But, you can't necessarily blame Cass, but Cassidy's line about the kind of speech, I guess, about, there were thousands before you and there will be thousands more and all that, like, that's very comic book Cassidy. Like, I really dug that. I was like pretty into it. I liked the whole conversation. I loved Tulip on the phone. Just clearly she knows something's wrong, but she just keeps talking anyway. And I really liked that. I thought it was really endearing. She keeps trying to like
pull it out of
smooth it over and kind of get some sort of reaction, and it was dark.
Yeah,
very dark. Him literally sitting in like a basement,
a graffitied basement.
Yeah, like a parking garage. It looked like it was really nasty.
Yeah, she's like, "You're in a crack house, aren't you?" He's like, "No,
it's not a house.
It's not a house." Yes, very sad. But
I like that we're getting into all this kind of the trappings of immortality with Cassidy. I think it's cool stuff to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like it's been enough time since that Twilight BS that I actually kind of care about it again,
You think it's interesting? There's storytelling potential there?
Yeah, like I came to like Buffy the Vampire and Angel very late, and those are things that I like finished probably 5 years ago, I think. And that was kind of in the heyday of that. But I was always of the mind of like, well, everybody else, not everybody else, but those who care have their Twilight and True Blood going on. But I'm going back to Buffy when things were good. And I feel like we've gotten to the point where vampire stuff is out of vogue and can be more nuanced and doesn't have to
conform to any sort of popular opinion.
Yeah. So I think it's a good time for Cassidy to be exploring these things.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's pretty nice.
I think vampires can be such an amazing storytelling device. Like, there's so much there that is really, really, really cool. It's why I'm still, as good as parts of it are, the Will Smith I Am Legend did not deliver on the potential that it held.
Yeah.
And I think when somebody eventually makes a fourth filmed version of that story, they could maybe really get it right. Like, now's the time, it feels like, where people are actually adapting books properly. We're kind of in this era now where like things are being treated with like, maybe if we just make it that, you know what, I say that and then I think of the Dark Tower, so never mind. It's
well, to be fair, that was in the works forever.
Yeah, and it went through some development hell.
Yeah.
But like, we think of like it. Like, just hire it's a relatively, like, pretty much a no-name director with a cool idea, some cool style, and just like adapt the material, keep it faithful, let it breathe. But cut out some of the extraneous stuff and just like,
No, you know what's going to happen to it is someone is going, like, you've got the Omega Man and other adaptations of the I Am Legend story that have happened since then. But I feel as though it will get to a point where other people borrow from it and do the things from it that it will be a John Carter in the future. Of like, someone will do the perfect adaptation of I Am Legend in like 2030,
Okay.
And then people will look back on it and be like, well, this is really derivative. And then it's like, yes, it is derivative off of everything that was derivative off of the original book.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it's positioned to be. But there will be people like you and me that will appreciate it very much for what it was.
That's one that you should get the audiobook of because it's not very long.
I read that one in high school.
Oh, you did?
That is a book that I actually read. It's been a long time, though. I know.
We found it.
Give me a gold star.
You are legend. I Am Legend is legend.
Yes.
It's the book you've read.
That was a book that I read senior year in the section of my English class where they were like, we want you to pick a book that you want to read and then tell people about it. I don't really remember much about what I said about it, unfortunately.
Man, it's so good. It's such a great read. It's such a page turner.
Yeah.
I will never forget the first time I read that. And I was at home in my apartment on 13 and Crooks. And when I read that chapter where he runs out to the store to like the Sears or whatever to try to stock up with supplies and he's driving home at breakneck speed as the sun is going down, and they're all running out of their houses to try to get him, and he like rides up on his lawn and just like barrel rolls through the front door just in time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was so freaked out. I was like, that one sequence in the book had me on the edge of my seat, and the movie never even got close. I mean, the movie had its moments that were really effective, and they got me so excited, and then they come rolling out these stupid creatures, and I was like, oh man, because it's so good in the book. Anyway, vampires, they hold so much potential.
They do.
It's the reason why I think it's What We Do in the Shadows is so good for so many reasons, but it really does like use vampires really effectively.
That came at the right time too.
Absolutely.
Like it was kind of at the start of this like quieter period.
They're making a series out of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're making
I don't know if it's a series following the vampires or if it is the werewolves. Or maybe they're doing both.
I think it's both. Because I think, I don't know.
I just want to see more Rhys Darby, so I'm good with whatever.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would want Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement to return.
Yeah.
I would want them all to come back. Honestly, they should bring back Peter, too, because Peter was the best.
Peter was good.
Anyway, watch What We Do in the Shadows if you haven't.
Yeah. All right, the grandma stuff. So she clearly comes back to health. Tulip gets captured for some reason.
Yeah, that was unclear.
Just
to psych us out for 60 seconds.
That's what's weird about it. Like it seems as though they wanted us to believe that the person in the chair was Tulip. But to what end? Like, I guess in the long run, I'm still a little hazy on what Jesse's debt really is. Was it the sense of like, does grandma want, I guess grandma just wants full operation of their system of Angelville soul harvesting for her youth to continue.
Honestly, why doesn't grandma just become a vampire? It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess because she likes hurting people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And because they don't believe in it, they burn vampires there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But it's not totally clear to me that the debt is strictly just we want everything, we want Angelville back to prosperity. Like it almost, like I was wondering if Sabina herself was the solution, like that was her debt being paid, or that was his debt being paid, but him killing her is like, I'm not going to pay it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. And that's when it's like, we're going to call the Grail.
It's a good excuse for him to get the Grail there, because I kind of think that Jesse's plan is to manipulate the Grail and Angelville into like just shooting each other, hoping that he can play one against the other. But right now it looks like it's wrapped up in the pretext of, I have this resource here that will get you infinite souls.
Yeah,
which is pretty much true.
Well, yeah, but like it like there's got to be more to that, because I don't think Jesse just wants open fire because if grandma dies, then Tulip's dead. Like there's more nuance to it.
Well, I think he wants to fulfill the bargain, release like he might hold up his end of the deal and then get long enough to free Tulip, and then be like,
I guess that's the thing.
I feel like he'll have some little seed he can plant in each camp to get them pissed at each other.
And then
ideally that's
as
right
as they're blowing each other up and the Saint shows up, Jesse and Tulip can walk away.
Yeah, that's my hope. I think that'd be spectacular.
That would be very good. I'm not of the belief. I guess it's not that I'm not of the belief. I don't know that there is a world where Tulip can no longer be intertwined with Grandma's life.
Okay.
Like, that's my question still, I guess.
I feel like it's going to have to happen. They're going to have to split off, but I don't know how yet. And I have no knowledge from the book to carry over to this speculation. So I don't know. I feel like the show can't. Basically, I don't think Grandma's ever going to let Jessie go unless he makes her.
Yeah.
And I don't think she'll. Basically, I think it's going to be kind of an over my dead body kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have to hit the road with Tulip again eventually. And so one of these things is going to have to give. And I think for the show to happen, there's going to have to be a way to. Well, but that.
Like, I guess the technicality of it all, like I think I told you last episode that I was wondering if the literal power of the word is going to be what keeps Grandma alive but takes her off of the chessboard.
That's right. Yeah.
But
keeps her heart beating.
Yes.
In like in a safety deposit box somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Tulip's spit sealing it up. You might be right, actually.
So
that's true. The word, see, that's screwed up. I've completely counted the word out of anything in this show because it hasn't been in the show for forever.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I'm ready for it to come back.
But that's the weird thing is that this season's been really good so far.
It has, yeah, it has. That's the thing is like he doesn't exploit he does exploit it in the book, but it's not like the solution to every problem.
Yeah.
He does use it a lot. But it's not like every single situation he solves it with the word. He doesn't want to abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
He only really uses it on people that he thinks deserve it.
Yeah.
So whereas in the show he's a little willy-nilly with it in season 1.
Yeah.
He just kind of was like, the word.
Yeah. We touched on all of the Allfather stuff, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the big reveal there is that he knows about Jesse, and we're going to get some dialogue about that.
Yeah. How is Star going to spin it so that he can still maybe recover Jesse and subvert the Allfather's plans? But
yeah, I think Star's got some schemes.
Yeah, for sure.
The Allfather purging himself in
his
bucket
purge stick
has got to be it's got to be a reference to Monty Python to the meaning of life, I think.
Yeah.
It's the one that has that joke.
Yeah,
which is so good. It's such a good sketch. It was just visually too similar.
I apologize if it was someone in the Discord, but I think I saw on Reddit somewhere that somebody was just like, now we understand how the Allfather keeps his figure. I just thought it was a very good joke.
He's looking so good. You're looking good. Your stomach staples hold. No.
Yeah. But, and then Cassidy going back to...
this was my other IT crowd reference because the way he looks and the way he acts and the way he just plays out the scene, I was like, is Cassidy being played by Chris O'Dowd in this scene? Because it just reminded me so much of him. Like the extra curly hair kind of in his eyes and the way he was just kind of like down and kind of glum and bashful in this whole scene opposite this little old lady. It was just like right away. I was like, this is like something out of the IT crowd.
I feel like I don't see Chris O'Dowd as much as I wish I did.
Well, yeah, we'd see him every day ideally.
Well, yeah, but I feel like he's picking strange projects, which is good. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't feel like I've watched much of what he's been doing lately, but I feel like after Bridesmaids, I was like, oh, Chris O'Dowd's gonna be everywhere, and then he
was in Thor 2, right? I think he was in The Dark World.
Yes, briefly.
Yeah,
right.
He was like he went on a date with Jane.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
See, it's stupid when I search for Chris on IMDb. I get Hemsworth, Pratt, Pine, and Evans in that order, followed by some other guy I don't know, and then Chris Klein, star of Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
Also did a great Mamma Mia audition tape that is out there on the internet.
Oh,
yeah, it
beautiful.
Is horrendous, but it's great.
Yeah, Chris O'Dowd, you're right. He's been picking cool stuff. He was one of the only good things about the Cloverfield Paradox, and by only I mean you can count them on one hand. How many things are good about that movie? But he was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I chose to not watch that movie after everyone's thoughts.
It's a good movie.
But
yeah, he was in The Program. That movie kicked ass. It was a movie about Lance Armstrong. That Ben Foster played Lance Armstrong.
I remember you being excited about it, but I did not end
I
up
was
seeing
because Chris O'Dowd was in it, and so was Lee Pace. And I think it's a really interesting like modern scandal that it blew up and then it disappeared again. But yeah, it was a really solid movie. I actually watched it on a flight, and I was completely plugged into it the entire time. Like usually I get distracted on planes, but like I was really into it. It was a really cool movie, just like simple. It's got a low meta score and a low IMDb score, but honestly, I thought it was like a really solid movie.
He did do a great job in Molly's Game. I did see Molly's Game.
Oh yeah,
and he plays a fun character in that. But I that's the thing. I expected him to be bigger than he was. But anyway,
he might get there.
And no,
he's got the potential.
Maybe he is doing the smart thing and not overplaying himself in the field.
It's true.
Anyway. That's enough for the Chris O'Dowd cast.
Mm-hmm.
Any other final thoughts?
I'm every thread that gets opened up in this episode, I'm really excited to follow.
Yeah,
I liked this one quite a bit.
Yeah,
there was nothing that kind of made me like. I'm really excited to see where the Saint and Eugene pick up. I'm excited to see what happens with the aftermath of killing Madame Boyd. I'm excited to see what happens with Cassidy and Les Enfants.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more that I can't remember now. I guess that's about it. The Allfather
Jesse calling the Grail as well.
I'm excited for everything to kind of. I feel like so. This is episode 6. So
this is 6. So we got 7, 8, 9, 10.
4 more.
Yep.
Yes, I'm excited.
We are building.
What's great is like we still have 4 more and we don't have 7 more.
Yes.
Like if we had 13 or anything beyond at this point, I'd be like, oh.
I'd be a lot more tired.
Exactly, yeah. But no, this feels like we're right on track. It feels perfect.
Well, and not to spoil anything about anybody's expectations, the next episode is called Hitler.
Oh, okay.
But I did.
It's called Hitler.
It is called Hitler.
Oh, okay.
It is titled Hitler. But I caught a glimpse of the description, and it does mention Jesse. So I think there will be. It's not just going to be. Here's what Hitler's been up to since escaping hell. So I think they learned a lesson from season 2, in that maybe concentrating and being more selective about when they visit the hell storyline stuff would be more effective than the here's a trickle every week until so
so far this season has felt really, really nicely paced.
Yeah,
I've liked it a lot.
Nicely paced.
No, we're nicely paced.
Yes.
Always. And I think I'll look back on this one as potentially my favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll see.
We shall see. All right. Once again, you can find more episodes of our podcast on g2tpodcast.com. We're also on TV Time, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and many other podcatchers. We're G2T Podcast on Twitter, and you can email us at g2tpodcast@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our podcast and share your thoughts on AMC's Preacher. The Midwest Podcast Network has other shows about video games, horror movies, FX's The Alienist, and HBO's Westworld. Find out more about these shows as well as how to support our network at the Midwest Podcast at midwestpodcastnetwork.com. Our theme music is the song All In by The Red Thread, and it is being used under a non-commercial Creative Commons license. And that's all for this episode of Gone to Texas. We cannot wait to see what next week's episode of Preacher brings, but until then, go forth and speak the good word.